Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Hagir Show on the Hagir Network. And today, um, I am truly honored, and I know everyone is watching us or going to watch us throughout this live. They are going to be inspired because we are in the presence of someone who is making an impact and a huge difference with what he has. He's an artist. He is a lot more than just Jonathan. You are an activist. You are making an impact not just in the UK, United States, but in like globally, I can say. So please talk to us. Let us know who you are and what you're doing. And yeah, welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me onto your show. And I think I must take you around wherever I speak because you did such a great introduction there. My name's Johnathan Banks, and I'm a humanitarian photographer that works for a number of different charities, both in the UK and around the world. I'm the longest serving volunteering photographer for the British Red Cross, and I support conflict charities like International Alert. And I basically photograph long-term projects with a lot of the charities that I support. And alongside my humanitarian work, I support it by photographing commercial work. So I photograph for various commercial companies that actually like what I do in the humanitarian side, so support my work in a lot of ways as well. I kind of cut my teeth photographing for editorial, photographing for the Daily Telegraph, the Times, and the Guardian, and recognised that I wanted to make a difference that I could see occurring, and I felt sort of pulled towards the more humanitarian sides and the charities that I was working with. And I enjoyed doing that work more rather than some of the work that I was photographing for the newspapers. I felt was becoming more celebrity based and orchestrated, whereas the charity work was very natural, and I enjoyed doing more. And now I'm photographing for a kind of stable of charities, and always looking to expand and always looking for new charities to work with.
This is a very good and short introduction, and we are going to dig deep and know who Jonathan first. But I admire your work since the moment we met, and it makes a huge difference. And I know sometimes, when we do what we do, you're doing it because that's who you are. You don't sit and evaluate, but trust me, people are watching, people are listening, especially in this climate. So just talk to us a little bit about who are you? Like, how did we get here?
Okay, so I always try and look back at how I became a photographer and what inspired me to become a photographer. And I came from quite an academic family. So my father was a scientist, a biochemist working for the government in DNA research. And so most of my family was science orientated. So when I put my hand up and said, I want to do photography, they went, what is going on here? And I think it was because my father loved the arts and took me to everything from painting, sculpting, opera, classical music, rock. Um, and one time he took me to the South Bank, and I saw two shows that really inspired me. One was Eugene Smith, who I still consider as the greatest photographer ever. who worked for Life magazine and photographed serious reportage work, and then Ansel Adams that did these kind of beautiful landscapes in Yosemite National Park. And whilst it's landscape photography, it was actually the work that changed Yosemite into a national park, and it suddenly became a protected area. So it's kind of a reportage in a different way, in an artistic way as well. So once I decided I've got to be a photographer, I had no idea what to do. So I went through the route of studying photography at university. I went to the University of Derby, and the course there was very fine art, actually. It was a fine art photography course, which I struggled with a little bit because I always wanted to go out and take reportage style photographs, being inspired by the likes of Henri Cartier-Bresson and other greats. But I kind of just stuck to my guns and thought, you know what, I'm going to do what I love, and carried on doing. And I was the only photographer in that course to be sponsored for my end project. And I won Jessup Photographer of the Year, Student Photographer of the Year that year. And afterwards, I went on to work with a few agencies, and then made my way into the Daily Telegraph and the Times and the Guardian, and I started photographing from there. That was kind of a really good training ground. You have to think on your feet really quickly and produce great results under extreme conditions. And I think that carried me through in everything that I do now. And one of the people that I work with in the agencies changed over to become the editor for the British Red Cross. And he invited me over to photograph my first assignment for the British Red Cross, which I really thoroughly enjoyed. I think it feels an honor to meet these people, and for them to allow me to photograph them. So that I really got a taste for it then, and I started looking at other charities and working with them. But that was kind of the way that I fell into photography. I think there was some difficult times at the beginning. Photography is one of those careers that a lot of people aspire to, and everyone's a photographer now with their phone,
Yeah.
and it's extremely
Yes.
challenging now. But I try to take photographs that people will look at and go, wow, that has
Yeah.
always been my aim, to for everyone to see what I do and kind of go, wow. Sometimes they're simple ideas, but simple ideas are often the greatest and tell the story the best. But that's always what I've aspired to do. Yeah.
And when you start the photography, was it always the goal is to just do something that is memorable, something that, like you said, people will see and say, wow. Did you always think about using your art and talent to inspire and make a difference, or that something came along the way after you start working?
I think I've always believed in myself, and that's part of the journey. I think I've always believed that I could produce something incredible, and then after that, I don't just want to use that incredible talent just to produce pretty pictures that people put on their wall and say, "Hey, that's great." I wanted to use that as a voice. And like I say, I was inspired by a lot of photographers that were working in the editorial world, but on campaigns to make a difference. And I think from early on, I remember having a discussion in at university where people were ripping apart the sort of editorial world, the newspaper world, and saying, do you know what, it's all staged, blah, 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 etc. Whatever you do in photography, you're cropping things out, you're exposing it in different ways. And my attitude's always been that I'm trying to make a difference. And I recognize that I'm not going to change the world in one single picture, but I think if you inspire one person and they tell another person, the ripple effect of a photograph can be quite significant. And we've seen some images that have changed the world and have changed policy. There's not many photographs that I've taken that I feel that will change the world, but I do believe in portraits of resilience can make a huge difference ultimately.
And that's exactly what I saw when we met with the Torture, Abolition, and Survivor Coalition, and you got to work with survivor of torture. And this day specifically, like I'm glad we were able to connect and have you on the show in the month of June, because beside it is being a Survivor Week on June 26th. It's also June 19 is Juneteenth, which is, we use it to educate. Juneteenth had a lot of history with slavery and, African American here in the United States. So your art does touch people in different areas, and it is relevant with so many topics. Can you talk to us about one of your project, and especially the Torture, Abolition, and Survivor Coalition that I had the honor to be, me and the kids, be part of it. Why you were interested in doing this, and what did you learn in the process? How can we help people see refugees, immigrants, and torture survivors as someone who is something more than, and I think this is the point of your whole exhibit. And talk to us about the exhibit.
I think I'll start by explaining how I came to photograph with TASSC International. And often one project leads to another. And it's strange how your sort of career twists and turns. So in 2014, I was assigned to photograph for a organization called Delagwa. Delagwa embarked on an ambitious project to distribute water filters and fuel-efficient cook stoves across Rwanda. The water filters eliminate bacterial contamination, providing safe water for drinking and washing. The cook stoves use less wood and burn more efficiently. This helps prevent diseases caused by air pollution and reduces carbon emissions. The program monitored the use of the water filters and cook stoves, with the data being used in an impact study. I was in Rwanda for around 4 weeks, and I traveled with Leonce Biamana, who was at the time a health worker, my driver and my translator. But I recognized in the car we were with a film crew, and I recognized that Leonce was more intelligent than any of us, to be honest. He was great company, and we spent a lot of time chatting on the road about everything under the sun. So afterwards, once I delivered the project, and the Delagwa project went on to win the Sony Awards, which is one of the biggest photography awards in the world. It was also published as a book and was exhibited in various different countries. Afterwards, I kept in contact with Leonce, and he went on to become the executive director of TASSC International. And we started discussing collaborating on something that showed the stories of the survivors that they support. Now, Leonce said, look, read through the stories, look at the website, and let's have a chat afterwards. And what struck me about the website was a phrase that they have on there was, survivors are the strongest and most effective voice in the campaign to abolish torture. And that had to be my starting point. From then on, I knew that we needed to photograph portraits of the survivors, and have the stories as prominent as the picture. The picture was always something to lead into the stories. Whenever I tell people about this project and I start saying Portraits of Resilience is a series of portraits of survivors of torture, I always get the same expression from everyone, and it's often kind of thing because they're imagining downtrodden black and white photographs, really gritty, people in the corner looking depressed, showing scars or doing something like that. And from the outset, I wanted to produce a series of colourful and empowering images that each person would really be proud of and enjoy. And so we set about working out a concept. Now, Leon's put forward there are a number of issues with photographing survivors, and some of them were we had to respect their identity in certain cases for fear of repercussions of family in their countries. So we could use a pseudonym, or but he said actually being recognized in the photographs would be a problem. So he, or actually TASSC suggested that I used creative studio lighting to obscure people's identity. And
Mm-hmm.
from the start, I said, no, I don't want to do that, because that's often how criminals are presented on TV, you know.
Yeah.
And I said, we don't want to associate survivors with some sort of criminal style. And I also wanted to produce something that would ask questions, and it would lead you to want to know more. And so I came up with this concept of projecting an image onto each survivor, where sometimes those images would obscure the survivor's identity. Now, in the background, you can see two photographs that I've done. One on the right, on my right. You can see someone's in the photograph, but you would not recognize them in the street. I've changed the way photography is kind of, portraiture has been done traditionally. On the left, obviously, Desire was okay with being photographed and being identified. Now, once we had this kind of basic concept of let's project something, it was kind of natural to say, let's ask every survivor to bring, that normally bring about 3 or 4 photographs that we try out, and that each photograph, they explain to me what that means to them. And what I loved about this project was I had kind of preconceived ideas of what people would bring, and they were just blown out of the water. People brought photographs of a tree, you can see here. They brought pictures of their family, their house being destroyed, their church where they were from, protests, everything was brought, and I loved it all. It was really interesting.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. It was an amazing project, and you had it displayed in several areas, which I think the last one you had the exhibit at the UN, and
So
I believe several places, right?
yeah, so we've exhibited it in a number of different places, and the objective was always to show it in as many different places as possible. And those don't mean, it doesn't mean to say that we want to show them in galleries.
Yes.
We want to show it in places that can make a difference. So and I want to find the biggest audience always. So I've entered it. It's been shown in festivals, photography festivals, art festivals.
Mm-hmm.
It's been shown in collaboration with TASSC International at their Survivors Week on a number of years. And I've spoken at the Survivors Week about the work. And then we were extremely fortunate to show it at the Phillips collection, and that was 2 years in the making, during pandemic as well. So it's extremely complicated to put on, but it was an amazing event where the Phillips collection were really backing the whole idea, loved the concept, and we had a artist talk where they asked me to speak about the work, and I said I will speak about the photography, but what I really want is survivors to talk about the work. So I had Hagir and Sophie come on, and they talked about how they felt about the work, and I had Leon's talk about TASSC International, and it just made for an incredible an event, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, it was. So, what would be your advice for an aspiring artist who we always hear like starving artist or, art don't pay bills or doesn't make a difference. It's just a hobby. So, a lot of people hear those kind of negative comments. We're trying to change that. What would be your advice for someone who has the same passion and wanna do something that is meaningful and also do the things that they love? That's the first part. The second part is what would be also your advice for everyone that is listening to us on what the art can do to help. It is not just like how they say, he's just an artist. This is it's something talent. Not everyone can learn how to do the things that you do, but still people don't value artists, musicians, singers, writers the same way that they should because they truly make a difference.
Yeah, so I think art does make a difference, and it's a different kind of voice. So when I started working with TASSC International and with other charities, I encourage them to review their communications and reach out in all different forms in ways that haven't been done before. I think the general public can become desensitized if you're doing the same approach every single time. You need to humanize the people in the photographs or in the art so that people connect and empathize with them. And that's when you're going to get a reaction. And that was always my objective with Portraits of Resilience, to um, have images that people are curious in learning more and then go on to read the stories. I've just exhibited at St Albans Cathedral in the UK. St Albans Cathedral runs a artist in residence, so they have a lot of big artists that do sculpture, tapestry, everything. And their current theme is charity. So they asked me to put on an exhibition, and the exhibition wasn't solely Portraits of Resilience. It was actually a whole range of my career, which I've never put on before. But Portraits of Resilience got a lot of notice and a lot of interest. And I had a book for people to contact me with, and I had loads of lovely comments about it. And it's strange that people were looking at all the other pictures that have won awards, etc., but they gravitated to Portraits of Resilience as something they haven't seen before, as a unique way. How you make a career out of doing this kind of thing? I think passion. You've just got to be passionate about it, and you've got to believe in yourself, and you've got to think outside the box, and you've got to work with whoever you are working with. So I read everything about the charities that I work with. I try and understand the core values of what they do, and recognize that I am supporting them and not trying to shout about Johnathan Banks or anything like that. I am a
Yeah.
humanitarian photographer. I'm not an artist trying to produce art out of charities. I am trying to give them a voice, essentially.
Hmm.
And it is extremely difficult, don't get me wrong, and I still find it difficult. I support my charity work through commercial photography, which I enjoy doing as well in a different way. But what I like about the charity photography is, when I show it to people, they react in a way that is different to commercial work. Some of the
Yeah.
commercial work you don't want to put on the wall, etc., etc. It serves a purpose, whereas the um, humanitarian photography work serves a different purpose, which I feel good about. And yes, it's a lot. It's underpaid. It's
Yeah.
challenging with all the equipment that I have to run, etc. But there's something extremely rewarding that I enjoy, and would carry on doing if I could. Just do that, basically. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, so you just got to believe in yourself and be persistent. I think one of the things that people do ask is, how do you get into your line of work? And of course, I've been doing it for quite a long time, so everything's changed. But I think the core things have remained the same, and the core things are: show as many people as possible what you do, what you can do, your work, because many people will say, no, I don't like that. And many people have said no to Portraits of Resilience. I don't get it, whatever. Yeah. And then you strike a whole group of people that kind of go, wow, we get you. We get what you're doing. We love it. And things spark from there. So it's showing people, believing in yourself and being persistent.
Amazing, amazing advice. I'm sure you are familiar with the current war in Sudan and the humanitarian crisis, with Sudan being considered one of the worst humanitarian crises in the world. Yet it is not getting as much attention as it should. Do you have anything in the future, or there is any work that you're doing to support humanitarian crisis in the world? If you touch Congo, Palestine, Sudan, I mean, Ukraine, all of those areas are affected. But Sudan, it's my home country where I grew up. So it holds, of course, a special place in my heart. But at the same time, I'm a humanitarian, so I care about everyone who's affected by a crisis in the world. What are you doing, or if you are, and if you would like to share with us some of the ideas that you're working on?
So I'm always open to organizations contacting me and working with them. I feel that I have a voice and a way of presenting um, the picture, and I try and use that and allow other organizations to use me to speak in a different way. So I'm always open to organizations from Sudan, from anywhere, to be honest, to contact me, and I'd love to see if we can collaborate together. Um, and at the moment, one of my projects doing, uh, so I'm working a lot on Portraits of Resilience, and I've been working for the last year and a bit on actually showing this work at the United Nations in Geneva. Earlier this year, I spoke at the Global Migration and Development Conference in Geneva as part of the progress of showing it in the actual United Nations building. And it got a lot of good feedback, but there are so many hoops that you have to jump through in order to show it at the United Nations. We are so close. I was hoping to announce that we have had it approved at this today, but it's going to a committee to be reviewed at the end of the month now, and but the signs are good. Basically, the signs are good, and we are aiming to show portraits of resilience. I'll be alongside TASSC International in September at the Human Rights Conference. I'm working with a lot of smaller refugee organizations, the Compass Collective, they help refugees integrate themselves into the UK society through the arts. So they are founded by many people that work within the arts, and notably Toby Jones, the actor. And actually, week Friday, we are doing 24 hours of Shakespeare. So they're doing 23 plays in 24 hours of Shakespeare's plays with loads of actors, both famous and amateur. And I'll be photographing everything for that. And then I'm working with the Babylon Project. It's another organization that supports refugees, and I continue my work with the British Red Cross as well. But as I say, I'm always looking for new organizations, new charities to work with, and I love working with new people.
And while we're talking about that, how people can support you, how can they reach out? And if it's a organization or an individual who would like to utilize your services or collaborate with you.
I guess the best place is through my website, which is jonathanbanks.co.uk.
Mm-hmm.
There's a contact form there that you can contact me on, or you can just email me at hello@jonathanbanks.co.uk. And we can start the conversation there. How to support, I guess, if you know of any organizations that can support portraits of resilience,
Mm-hmm.
then I'd love you to contact us. Whether that is suggestions on where we can show the current work, any funding. TASSC International is always looking for funding to show this work. So we are always on the lookout for help. The United Nations project is currently costing a lot of money, and I am borrowing, stealing everywhere possible to fund it. And then if you are in a similar situation, if you're a survivor and you'd like to be part of Portraits of Survivors, please contact me. We can work out a way of photographing you wherever you are, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. I will share the link to Johnathan website. There is information there. There is a contact me. You can email, and you heard it. If you are interested in collaborating, helping in any capacity, reach out and use Johnathan and make a difference. Lastly, we do something we call the lightning round. So I'm going to ask you quick, fun questions and just respond with the first thing that comes to your mind, okay?
Okay.
So, what would Jonathan today tell 16 years old Jonathan?
Um,
Advice.
be more confident in yourself. Yeah. There are many times where I thought, no, I can't enter that competition. I'm just not where I should be as a photographer. And now I look back at it and I think I would have probably won them, and I didn't
Yeah.
enter them because I wasn't confident enough in the work. But you suddenly get this confidence that builds and builds and builds because you're showing the work to so many people. So be more confident in yourself. Yeah.
Be more confident in yourself. Good advice. Something that people misunderstood about you, or something that people don't know about you.
Um, I think the most important thing in my life is my family, actually. More important than anything else. And they probably think that photography is more important than them, but because I give up a lot of time and I'm constantly working, etc., because I love what I do. But my family is more important than anything else. And I have two boys that I'm extremely proud of, and have loved seeing them grow up.
Amazing, amazing. And if like you are to give us a suggestion, you are from the UK, so if someone goes there, what is your favorite place? This is not an advertisement, everyone, but um, you traveled a lot. What would be your favorite spot and why, or a favorite meal, whatever you feel like you want to share?
Okay, so I would say if you're coming to London, then they're all the big sites, all that kind of stuff. But try and go to one of the markets. So
Hmm.
Camden Market is kind of edgy, and really full of interesting stuff. Then there are food markets and all those kind of things. Market life is just kind of fun, and that would be my big suggestion. Outside of London, uh, we've got some incredible countryside. If you get up to Scotland, Scotland has got some of the best landscapes in the world. It literally is. It's just the weather. If you're expecting sunshine, don't go to Scotland. Yeah, but it's going to
It's in
rain
my
at some
list.
stage. It's going to rain at some stage.
It's in my list. This is
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is one of the places are in my list. I've been to England twice. Love it there. Guilty pleasure. We got everything from chocolate to reality TV to anything in between. So,
Okay. Guilty pleasure. What would that be? That would be whiskey. Yeah,
okay.
I'm a fan of whiskey. Not on a massive level, so don't get me wrong on that. But and whiskey and chocolate go really well together. So I
Oh,
kind of like,
wow.
yeah, dark chocolate and a whiskey. But travel. My guilty pleasure is travel, and I love going to countries where the culture is completely different. Yeah, and
Mm.
I love it even more if I know someone there that can show me a non-tourist version of it. So I love traveling and meeting people that I know or have been there for a while and show me the real side of a country. Yeah, that's
Amazing, amazing. Last one, someone who inspired you the most.
um I think it's probably got to be my father, to be honest. And my father died quite early, just when he retired. So it's
Sorry.
always a big shock. But he showed me always, even though he's a scientist, he was really into his photography. He showed me that you get your inspiration from all the arts. I don't believe that a photographer should just look at photography. I think they should be looking at painting, film, and like I said, opera, ballet, everything. And you get something from everything that you look at. And so I think that would be the person that I would name as the biggest inspiration. Yeah.
Perfect choice and perfect ending to a perfect time with you, Johnathan. I am honored to have you, and I hope everyone watch us today learned something, and they will take the step on going onto your website, checking Johnathan work and support at any level that you can do. Johnathan, thank you very much for being here, and good luck with all the project that you do. And I wish you nothing but the best.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.